It's been a crazy week. As usual, the GOP presidential candidates, they are all in the news, and everybody is fawning over Newt Gingrich, saying the rise of Newt. He's saying, look, I'm going to be the candidate. So why do we even need a primary? Why just go ahead and just end this thing right now? And now what I find interesting, though, is that he's leading, Romney's in third, Paul's in second. And all this talk for years about how you need to spend so much time in Iowa and the ground game, that's now obsolete.
This campaign, Roland, is turning the traditional rules and strategies upside down. In fact, it's interesting to watch old-line political consultants trying to deal with this. We were told that Newt Gingrich wasn't serious, couldn't possibly be a real candidate. He didn't have any money, didn't have any organization, and that's what you needed for Iowa. Well, guess what? He is leading in Iowa.
He's got one state office. He's got one office in the whole state.
Right. And Romney has put all this money in Iowa and Florida. And funny enough, the reason why we need primaries is because Newt Gingrich has proved all along in the debates he gets better and better and better. And now he's trouncing Romney in Florida, South Carolina, Iowa, and narrowing the lead in New Hampshire. And the fact of the matter is, he is the most qualified, and I think it's really ironic that the mainstream media was pushing Romney. But to your point, Roland, this is why we need primaries, for the American people to let the candidates reveal themselves, if you will, on their positions. And Romney failed in 2008, and I think he will fail in 2020.
You know, the irony, though, I think is, by many objective measures, Romney has done pretty well in these debates. And much of this primary campaign has really been about the debate stage. But for whatever reason, Romney can't break through a certain ceiling of GOP support, be it a quarter of the vote or not. And that's killing him.
What is amazing is that Gingrich has so much baggage that even Southwest Airlines charges him a baggage fee. But right now, it doesn't matter because the people just want anybody but Romney. And in spite of all his baggage, and I think still, this is not over yet. You remember, they said the same thing about Rick Perry, that he was going to walk away with the nomination. This thing is far from over.
Here's what jumps out at me. First of all, I'm going to get to the baggage stuff in 1 second. But when you talk about this campaign and how it is progressing, I certainly believe that anger is driving a lot of this. When Newt goes off in a debate, when he's going after the media, people are like, yeah, go ahead, do it, Newt. And he's sort of pushing all of those buttons. And we want to deny how anger is driving this, but anger drove the Tea Party. Anger is driving Occupy Wall Street. This is still a nation that is ticked off with lots of people, not just President Obama.
Right.
Wall Street, they're ticked off with Congress. They're saying, look, we just want to cuss anybody out.
Well, I think it's frustration, like you said. I mean, I think everybody on the left and the right, the Tea Party, the Occupy Wall Street, and that anger and frustration, let's hope, is reflected to people going out to the polls in 2012. That's what the anger and frustration should be focused on, making sure folks are going to actually vote and exercise their right to vote. Because many people are saying black Americans are not going to come out in full force like they did for Obama in 2008.
You know, back to Mitt Romney, Crystal says that the mainstream media were pushing Romney. I would disagree with that. It's certainly the Republican establishment was pushing Romney and still is.
And they're going after Newt Gingrich pretty hard.
Absolutely, but Romney does not satisfy that need for anger with the base. He's not an angry guy any more than Obama is, and when he tries to project anger, it seems inauthentic. But that's right in Newt Gingrich's wheelhouse, that over-the-top rhetoric, that bombast. He is very good at delivering that, and the base loves it.
I want to show, hold one second. I want to go to this ad that a Romney PAC put out this week, put it up, then took it back down and said, well, it's not finished yet. Check this out.
Why is this man smiling? Because his plan is working. Brutally attack Mitt Romney and hope Newt Gingrich is his opponent. Why? Newt has a ton of baggage, like the fact that Gingrich was fined $300,000 for ethics violations, or that he took at least $1.6 million from Freddie Mac just before it helped cause the economic meltdown. Then there's the $37 million Gingrich took from healthcare and industry groups. And on the issues, Newt's been on all sides. He supports amnesty for millions of illegal immigrants. Gingrich even teamed up with Nancy Pelosi and Al Gore on global warming. And Newt was a longtime supporter of a national health insurance mandate, the centerpiece of Obamacare.
Wow. Now here's what's interesting. I watch all of these shows and folks say, oh, all Americans know about Newt's Baggage. No. Washington, D.C. and New York media people know about it. I don't necessarily believe that the nation as a whole actually understands all the stuff that happened with Newt. And in campaigns like this is what happens when you run. All of your stuff is exposed.
Well, I think that ad is a huge distortion, and I think what Romney is trying to do is undermine.
What was it distorted in the ad?
It's a huge distortion in the ad. First of all, Newt Gingrich has baggage just like Bill Clinton had tons of baggage when he was running in '92. The fact of the matter is, when Speaker Gingrich ran the House and got Republicans back into leadership after decades of not being in leadership, 4% unemployment, he forced Bill Clinton to tack to the center welfare reform and a balanced budget, and they had a surplus. So, the ad is a distortion.
So why did the House Republicans try to...
The ad is a distortion. As far as the individual mandate...
Crystal, why did the House Republicans try to overthrow him then?
Disagree.
Well, there were several coup attempts to overthrow him. Also, that they lost the House, and white suburban women were angry at Newt Gingrich because of the attacks on the poor. That was one of the reasons why compassionate conservatism sold so well by George W. Bush in the year 2000.
I think that the ads are accurate, but I think it don't matter. I mean, really, at this point, anybody but Mitt is because Newt Gingrich is the last man standing. Period. That won't matter.
Now, this week, there was a presidential news conference. The president took a couple of questions, and he was asked about this whole issue of whether he believes in appeasement. The president, Mr. Cool, sort of shot back in a very cool way this answer.
Ask Osama bin Laden and the 22 out of 30 top al-Qaeda leaders who've been taken off the field whether I engage in appeasement. Or whoever's left out there. Ask them about that.
The most interesting
that pretty much shut everybody up with that question.
I'm telling you, the most interesting thing was how quickly he shot back. This is an attack the Republicans have lobbed at the president before. He usually, Mr. Cool, ignores it, walks away. But this is campaign season. And just as you said about Newt Gingrich, we shouldn't assume that voters know all of his baggage. Obama no longer assumes that voters remember that just a few months ago, we captured and assassinated, quite frankly, took out Osama bin Laden. So now that it's campaign season, he's not going to let the Republicans get by with any of these shots unanswered.
I think this for the first time.
I think it was a home run. I think it was a home run. I think for finally the president, we see some passion from him. But he's right. You know, the fact of the matter is,
it wasn't passion. That was
passionate, and it was that was a home run. That was like, booyah, I'm going to smack you down. And he did. And I think to Cynthia's point, he needs to do more of that. I mean, we need to see more of that real, like, here are my accomplishments. Obama needs to run on accomplishments, although very little that he has in this administration, both foreign policy and domestic, instead of trying to attack Republicans about, oh, you're just so big and bad, and the reason why I can't get anything done because I'm King Obama and you're supposed to kowtow to me.
We
should see more of what he's doing
to
like
pull
that.
together the strands of his achievements and starting to put together kind of a coherent message. And you see this kind of thing forming towards the campaign. I'm the defender of the middle class. The Republicans are the defenders of the rich. And Obama, more and more, has been taking that kind of oppositional approach.
And I think, George, look, this week we saw Republicans deny an appointee to the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was absolutely about protecting Wall Street, because they despise any kind of transparency and oversight. And the president going after them saying, wait a minute, you're going to make a decision. Either you're with the American people or you're with the special interests. And I don't think this is one election where you can really try to defend Wall Street against some of the stuff out there.
I agree. I think what we're seeing now basically is Obama the candidate as opposed to Obama the president. People like Barack Obama as he campaigned. And once he got into office, he became more like George Bush on some areas, particularly foreign.
He went to Kansas this week. He talked about the whole issue of inequality. So here's a bit of what he had to say.
In the last few decades, the average income of the top 1% has gone up by more than 250% to $1.2 million per year. The typical CEO, who used to earn about 30 times more than his or her worker, now earns 110 times more. And yet, over the last decade, the incomes of most Americans have actually fallen by about 6%. Inequality also distorts our democracy. It gives an outsized voice to the few. who can afford high-priced lobbyists and unlimited campaign contributions. And it runs the risk of selling out our democracy to the highest bidder. But there's an even more fundamental issue at stake. This kind of gaping inequality gives lie to the promise that's at the very heart of America, that this is a place where you can make it if you try.
Here's what's interesting. We spent all of last year, the first half, really the first 6 months of this year, it was about debt, debt, debt. Occupy Wall Street comes on, and all of a sudden, they have forced President Obama, it even forced the Republicans to have to address inequality. It's amazing how the conversation has shifted to this inequality of income in this country.
Thank heaven for Occupy Wall Street for just that reason. Even if they completely disappear, don't accomplish anything else, they've already changed the conversation nationally and, more to the point, in Washington. And Republicans are afraid of that message. You see them struggling to try to figure out a way to respond, and a couple of secret memos have been revealed where Republicans were worried about how do we do something about this Occupy Wall Street message about income inequality because it's resonating with the American people.
What's interesting is the president could have given that speech, you know, in his first month in office, because those trends were apparent then.
Right.
They've become worse as the recession has taken a bigger bite out of America. But for whatever reason, he didn't see it in his political interest to deliver a speech like that. It's heartening to see him doing that now, and seeing the conversation shift. But he spent a lot of time, to use this word, appeasing and trying to appease Republicans, you know, economically. And I think he's now seeing some benefit in not doing that.
Well, and then I don't think it's helpful to continue to demonize higher income workers. And if he's really concerned about income inequality with what he is referring to as the working class and the middle class, he shouldn't be approving $500 million loans to a special class of folks like Solyndra. And he talks about special interests in that speech. The big labor unions poured $400 million in the last campaign cycle. So they're a huge special interest groups, and Obama believes in protecting union workers over the so-called middle class that he's talking about. And if income inequality is a huge issue of our time, then Obama needs to get serious and start talking about solutions to address that aren't influenced by big labor and other groups.
George with a final comment, but here's the reality. Every president, Commerce Department, Energy Department, they actually make loans to companies. So whether it's Solyndra, whether it's any other company, that's what we do.
And the White House was intimately involved with that loan.
But I'm making the point, right, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it's called, in America, corporate welfare. That's just the reality. George, final comment.
The president is not demonizing the rich. All he's saying, let's go back to where we were pre-Bush taxes and make them pay their fair share like everybody else. That's not demonizing.
Well, also, again, though, if you're one of those folks, you don't like what he has to say about it, I understand that, but you can't deny it. 275%, 40%, and at the end of the day, you can't say, oh, don't touch them. We have an expanding folks on food stamps and expansion of the poverty as well. So then people say, what do we do with them?
Under
you can't
his
just
leadership,
say,
we've had expanding
actually, last I checked, we were losing 500,000. But Crystal, the facts are we were losing 500,000 jobs a month under President Bush. That's a fact. That's not an opinion.
Actually, in 2007, Bush was creating 68,000 jobs a month.
Crystal, that's 07. 2 years later, we're losing jobs. The recession started in 07. Those are facts, not opinion. You can't. Don't spin facts. I want to thank Cynthia, George, Crystal, and Mike. I appreciate it. Like on this show, we don't spin facts. We just simply state them.